So, yes, hello everyone. Welcome to this Power Packed LinkedIn live session, and we are live on Instagram too. Welcome to our audiences at both the streams, LinkedIn and Instagram. And today's live session, well, what do I say? I think it's where firewalls meet fierce women and cyber threats better be beware today, because today's session is digital trust in a cyber insecure world, and let's see whether India is ready. That's what we are going to discuss today. And trust me, if you're online and you're already a part of this conversation, it's going to be amazing. And I'm Priya, I'm your moderator for the day. And think of me as the firewall between the chaos and the clarity, what's happening today. And we are diving into the world of cybersecurity, data privacy, and resilience with India's finest tech minds. Let me tell you, who also happen to be phenomenal women, beautiful as well, breaking the bios one bite at a time. So, without much ado, let me quickly step into the speaker introductions. First up, someone who needs no introduction in the world of digital diagnostics. She is the cybersecurity maestro, the AI whisperer, and the boardroom game changer. Please welcome Pooja Shatrat, CIO of OnQuest Laboratories. Pooja, welcome. So I would love to say, Pooja, when Pooja
Yeah.
logs in, the insufficiencies log out. So she's got the recipes, 30% cost savings, and the legacy of TechWins. Pooja, it's an honor to have you today in our discussion today. Welcome, Pooja, and also congratulations for your recent award. Hearty congratulations from everyone at SheWork.
Thank you so much, Priya. It's actually a great opportunity to be part of this forum wherein I have all tech leaders and especially women tech leaders who have
Yes,
already done a lot of things already in industry and they don't have to prove themselves. Their names are enough. So it's great to be
exactly.
part, of
Exactly.
this forum.
So each one of you here, it should be like Naam to Suna Hoga in your own respective fields. So welcome to you again. And next up, we have the identity protector, the digital guardian, and the access all areas only when it's safe queen. Say hello to Namrata Vise, Director of IT Security at FIS. And let me tell you, Namrata doesn't just fight phishing, she leads the fleet. Welcome, Namrata. It's amazing to have such an amazing leader like you today in our discussion. It's definitely an honor to have you in our panel today.
Thank you so much.
Yes, thank you. And yes, joining us also is the compliance commander, I would say the privacy strategist and the risk warrior with more than 2 decades of digital dominance. Let's hear it up for Dr. Mitali Sharma, Director Risk Compliance and InfoSec at SDG Corporation. So for Mitali, I'd love to say after our conversation, I met you yesterday. So when it comes to cyber governance, I think she's got all the protocols and the punchlines. I'm definitely, it will be an amazing conversation today with you, Mitali.
Looking
Welcome to the
forward to the conversation, Priya.
Thank you. Thank you. And next, last but definitely not the least, the tech transformer, cloud crusader, and the business automation architect. A warm welcome to Shweta Srivastava. Was it something like Star Wars? Did I just mention? Shweta Srivastava, the head of IT and Matrix Fertilizers. So she's been automating before even it was cool, 23 plus years and counting, Shweta. That's an amazing set of experience you have, and it's definitely so inspiring to talk to you today. It's definitely amazing to have you. So I think today everyone is going to get your dose of motivation from today's speaker panelists today. So welcome to all of you. Welcome, Shweta. Welcome again.
Thank you so much, Priya. And it is going to be a very interesting conversation, is what I can perceive. It's like sitting with my celebrity friends, of course. The kind of introduction you've given, I'm already feeling like I'm sitting with celebrities.
Yes,
Totally
for all the
my pleasure.
audiences here. Yes, for all the audiences here, all our panelists today are great friends for many years. So it's going to be like a a very professional kind of a kitty party where we are discussing all something really top notch, which is not your traditional kitty party, but yes, it's going to give a lot of knowledge to your kitty for sure. So, without much further ado, let's plug into today's hot topic, which is digital trust in a world where your toaster can be hacked and your data can be held hostage. So, what does trust really mean? So, just today, I think I was reading in one of the articles of Economic Times when our RBI Governor Sanjay Malhotra was emphasizing that critical need for stronger cybersecurity within the finance industry, and he called on banks and non-banking financial companies to enhance their preventive measures, introduce two-factor authentication for international transactions, and develop effective ways to respond to cyber incidents. So, coming to my first question, so what's one cyber habit as a layman you personally never compromise on, or no matter how busy life gets? What's that one cyber habit which you personally never compromise on? So, Namrata, can we hear it from you first?
Control Alt Delete when you're not
Ah.
on your desktop.
Yes.
So even I'm working in office or remotely at home, I never forget this to lock my
Yes.
laptop when I'm away. So
Correct.
is the thing.
Correct. No, it's not just a threat of some prankster, but yeah, it's any kind of a threat. So that's when cyber threat, I think it starts as something very funny on a lighter note, but goes to something serious extent later. So thank you for that. So Pooja, would you like to share your one secret to keep your privacy intact?
So what I believe is we surely need to have strong passwords because we are using a lot of applications these days, right? So if I talk about in our organization also, we are on mostly SaaS based applications. So I keep telling my team members, internal teams, as well as if it is family members also. So when we are on applications, web based things, so it's better first thing to have is a strong unique password. What usually happens is people try to keep the same kind of passwords on all the applications. So if one is hacked, your all data would go. So that is one thing which I keep promoting. It's a very simple tip, but yes, we surely need to follow it. And second is multi-factor authentication, as you just mentioned. So
Yes.
with MFA coming up, it is very important that we have this second line of defense, so that even if your password is hacked, at least you have that MFA code which is coming up on your app device, whichever you have authenticated, and at least your data would be secure. So that is the one cyber habit which I keep promoting internally, externally to everybody, and for myself also.
Correct, true. But yeah, like how you were actually mentioning, I was so guilty for having same passwords across all the platforms, be it banking or my Instagram or LinkedIn or anywhere. So I think it's high time I change it to something very unique. Something which has multiple characters, you would say,
Yeah,
because
so
I'm
there's
sure.
always a policy to have that strong password, so we should
Yes.
follow it. Yeah.
Yes, and I even heard that it's not advisable for people to keep your date of birth and the other
Yes.
things as your password, because it's known for at least your first close circle who know your birthday or something.
Your
So
birthday,
it's
your anniversary day, your kids' day, birthdays. So these are some of the things which we usually keep, or maybe it is like the name of the family members, because
okay.
it's easy actually to remember.
Fine. So I think the insider tip I would say for all those people, keep your name of your exes who never know, you never been mentioned to anyone.
Good tip.
I think this would be a very good tip for everyone. So yes, it's definitely so. Love these little things with strong passwords and two-factor and the sixth sense for the suspicious links that often definitely save the day. So I think Shweta and Mitali, you too have your own perspectives about it. Could you please love to share, Mitali, from you?
Yeah, so I think Namrata and Pooja covered pretty much what I wanted to say. But another thing that I want to add to their list would be, shutting down. So, at times what we do is when we are doing our work, we would just, flap the laptop and just go away, maybe put it in a sleep mode or something. But I make it a habit to make sure to shut down the laptop after I've done all my work, like at the end of the day. And second is that, switch off internet on my mobiles before I go to sleep, because that's the time I think when the hackers are awake. So, you have to at least save them from taking away your sleep. So the only way you can do it is, shutting down everything that you can do. And in case, you are going away from your house for maybe 2 days, 3 days, somewhere on a holiday, don't let, your router be a place where hackers can come and, they can party. So probably shut down your router before going, switch off your router. And that way, you are covered. And you can always, before coming home, you can always call your ISP and tell them that, we will be away for 3 days and I'll be back on so and so date. So if you do not see any activity, please do not deactivate it. And later on, when you come back, you can just switch it on. So I think those are a few habits that I personally follow, that, so that we can be at least safe. So, as I always say, you can never say that you are 100% protected. Either you have already been hacked or you are on the way of getting hacked or breached. So, but at least, you can practice certain cyber hygiene so that, at least you are safe.
Correct. So this router is something which I was not I was not aware of this. I think this definitely makes a very important point. So thank you, Mitali. Thanks for that. And Shweta, what is your one little secret which you want to follow with our viewers?
So one thing that I just don't get into is connecting to a public Wi-Fi. No matter how tempting it may seem, and you get a free Wi-Fi and you're able to access a lot of stuff, I don't at all get into connecting to public Wi-Fi, irrespective of whether I do have internet connectivity while I'm on the go or not. For example, very recently I was in Singapore and I did not take an international roaming because it was just a 2-day trip. But then I did not try to connect on any of the public Wi-Fi available around me, just to keep a check on what's happening around me back home. I did not do that.
Okay, so per se, if you can, for example, if people are traveling on a vacation where it's a hilly area or some remote location where mobile networks are not reachable, so that's do you think using Wi-Fi at those times, if that's the only option, what are the other measures you would try to recommend?
So one of course is that when you are planning your trip, that there will be limited connectivity there. So you can inform your people back that there will be limited connectivity. I'll not be able to respond back. Other thing that you can do is, of course, if there is no other option and you do have to get into any such connectivity, you just be very sure of what you are transacting on your phone. Try avoiding any financial transactions if you're accessing any public internet or accessing websites and portals which you are generally not, which are not secure, safe.
True. Those are like real good points. I think all the viewers, you're definitely going to make pointers of all these things. So yes, let's jump into the next very important kind of aspect, which I'm always amazed and as well as very cautious about. Let's talk about the next big thing, which we each and every single day get these messages for some transaction or the other. I'm talking about the big O here, the OTP. When we are talking about OTPs, so we all get these. Your OTP is from some of the scam messages. So how should an average user deal with such rising digital frauds? So what are these things which some measures which are like you can very easily follow, like some of the insights which you just shared. So we need few of the tips and tricks which we can actually follow for the general public, which will make sure that we don't fall prey for these. You want to share any tips on this? So Shweta, let's just start with you.
Sure. So one funny thing is, irrespective of how much education government has been doing, and we also as part of leaders keep doing in our environment, to our parents also at times, but some sort of buzzard happens when the OTP arrives. I don't know what. And the OTP clearly says that this is valid for 10 minutes. But general human tendency is to respond to it within few seconds. I don't know why, and that's where the instance happens. So one is that please just practice pause. Just see what is this OTP for. Did you intentionally initiate any transaction which is which is corresponding to this OTP? So one is, of course, that you need to be sure of the genuinity and authenticity of the source from where the OTP has come. And second is that very recently I was reading TRAI has recently started a policy where there will be suffixes and prefixes to the sender ID. So which will give you a clear idea of whether it is a transactional OTP or a promotional OTP or a service related OTP, government related OTP. So all that has been done by the government, but the responsibility of not falling into that trap lies with us. It's very important to make sure that the OTP is genuine before you punch in anywhere or you are sharing with anyone. And sharing, of course, should only be limited to, for example, a delivery that has come, a lot of delivery apps to make sure that the delivery happens to the right person. They ensure that OTP is entered. But otherwise, any OTP related to financial transactions and all need not be shared at all. Sometimes the message itself says never share OTP, but we tend to do it. So that's most important is to take a pause and first assess and then act.
Correct. I think these are the times when apps like Truecaller truly comes in handy at times, because at least these are like a first level of scrutiny happens, at least with my parents, after I downloaded this app in their mobile phones. They are at least a bit cautious than before, or else there are times when my dad actually asked me that all I have to do is just send my phone number and they'll get me a free vacation. I said no, nothing comes in for free in this world. I think you should know it better. Yes, this is definitely important. OTP is something which we have to definitely not ignore. So Mithali, let me come back to you. Talking about one more very important aspect in data privacy. So talking about when I was talking about my dad, so do you think Indians, like especially senior citizens or any people who are not from any city background, they're in tier 2, tier 3 cities, so do you think these Indians take data privacy seriously enough? Or are there any things which they still treat it like, okay, that's okay, ye to bhai chalta hai, this is pretty common, and these spam messages and scam calls are pretty often right now. So how serious people should get with all these things?
So, Priya, I think that's a very nice question, and I'll answer that by asking just another counter question to you. So, have you ever filled any, form with any person at the petrol pump or somewhere where they have asked you that, fill in this form and you will get a holiday voucher?
No, I make sure I don't talk to that
but
person.
Then, but that's what you do, right? But there are people who do that, and that's the first step where we are not taking data privacy seriously, because we are giving our phone number, we are giving our name, email ID, everything, just with the thought that tomorrow we may get a holiday voucher for 2 days 3 nights somewhere down the line in some place. Exactly. So that is one area where you can see how we treat our data privacy. Apart from that, if you even look at things like just clicking on the website, like we browse so many websites, we are doing some research work or something, and it says accept all cookies. Until the time you don't accept all cookies, it will not allow you to, enter that website. And what do? We just go and say, okay, accept all cookies. That's okay. What will they do? But actually they are taking, control of the entire session that you are planning, and probably your browser, and looking at the history of the browser and whatnot. Third important thing, like, generally when you download apps on your phone, and if it's a free app, it will ask you so many permissions. How many of we have read that disclaimer that comes in before saying I agree? I don't think anyone of us, because it's a 4-pager, content that comes in. But it clearly talks that your personal data will be used, and they will use it for marketing purposes, for promotions. All of that is there, and we just very nicely go there and just say I accept. So those are some areas where, besides keeping strong passwords, making sure we do not give our OTPs, we make sure that, our passwords are strong, everything is there, multi-factor, everything is there. But what would you do with all these things when you are clicking on these things and, you are giving your data free to everybody?
Correct.
So your data is everywhere. And even, authenticating with Google, it becomes easier to do that. And that what we do is, when we are installing an app or when we are visiting a new site, just to just to make sure that we remember the passwords, and just to get away from the hassle of doing that and authenticating ourselves again, what we will do, authenticate with Google. That's how we'll do the authentication. And now imagine your Google account getting compromised, so you don't know what all is compromised. Maybe your smartphone is compromised completely. So those are some things, some aspects that, in terms of data privacy, I know government is doing a lot of work. We have the Digital Data Protection Act. We have so many enhancements to the IT Act. There are so many norms that are going on. There is so many, awareness that is going on. But like, a lot of panelists also said, you keep on focusing on awareness, you make people aware of it. But then at the end of the day, that basic hygiene is something which we do not practice. So I think that's where, I would say, at our personal individual level, that's what we can do, besides all the measures that we are already taking, or clicking on any suspicious links. So those kinds of things are small attempts that we can do.
Correct. True. I think, yes. So exactly. So awareness is definitely first step to accountability, and clearly we have got a bit of catching up to do on that too. So yes. Next, let me come back to this one more question. Like, again, coming back to our citizens over there, if what is cyber security? What is digital trust? Because trust is something which has to be built by any kind of a brand. That's where the branding happens as a first step. So building trust is something which is crucial. So how do you explain this digital trust? So if your parents, your mom or your dad are going to ask digital trust, what does it mean? So how would you explain it in one single sentence? Very easy. One single sentence. Pooja, what will your sentence be? What is digital trust?
So for me, digital trust would be when you're confident, that the websites that you're using, the application, the online services that you're using, this will keep your information safe and handle it with responsibility. For me, that's digital trust.
Nice, sweet, simple, and yes, it covers many of the areas there. So, Namrata, what will your one-liner be? What is digital trust in one single line?
Ease of transaction along with protection.
Yes. Along with the protection.
Okay. So when our parents are using this, they don't understand. So it is the provider who provides that URL for the transaction. It is their responsibility as well as to keep it secure URL, secure application. And it is also the security awareness that we need to build amongst users. That is also important.
Great. We have got some amazing insights. So I would like to even mention to all our viewers who are watching us through LinkedIn and Instagram. So what, according to you, is digital trust? Do you want to share your one-liners? Please share. Also share your questions to our experienced professionals here. You're free to ask all those questions. Please share all your questions and your views through the comments. So yes, Shweta, coming back to you, your one-liner. What is digital trust? I am a person who don't know anything about cyber security and digital trust. How would you explain it to me?
So to parents, I think because they obviously are not from the era where digital was in existence. I would say that the way you used to warn us when we were kids, when there was a stranger at the door, it's exactly how you have to respond to an untrusted website or a message or any digital media that you are interacting. You have to treat them the same way.
Correct. So true. Exactly. Yes. So Mithali, what is your view on this?
So I think Pooja took the real definition of digital trust. So I'll not take that. But My mother asked me this question about, I think last year, she asked me, what is this digital trust that is going on everywhere? Because she saw on Facebook and all. And I explained to her that, if you are going out from the house for 2 days, right? And you give the keys to security guard after locking the whole house, it's like, you are trusting the security guard with your assets, with your critical assets, right? And with your personal information. And similarly, so that security guard is your trusted source, right? Similarly, if you are putting all your money in the locker, in the banks, or in any digital form, and you are trusting that person or that organization, it is a means of digital trust. So that's how I explained to her, and she was able to understand.
Correct. Pretty much fair. I think it was very much self-explanatory, very easy, and so I think that's brilliant. But to all of you, if your explanation can make mom nod in understanding, now that's I think that's definitely gold. I think it's the tough thing what we do as women to convince our moms about something, because you know how our Indian moms are. So I think these explanation would definitely at least make my mom understand what digital trust is all about. So thank you all for that. So next, let's come back to cybersecurity again from your perspective. Is India's cybersecurity infrastructure strong enough to tackle today's threats, or are we still catching up in this era of AI and ML? How far India is able to tackle all the challenges what it has to face, it has to go through under cybersecurity. How far is the infrastructure of India is strong enough to tackle multiple challenges under cybersecurity? So, Pooja, would you like to take that question once?
Yeah, sure. So according to me, the cybersecurity infrastructure, it is in the state of active development and improvement. But what I believe is, yes, we are still catching up, because rapidly this everything is rapidly evolving, and our systems are also so sophisticated in nature towards this today's threats, that we could see a lot of challenges. Like, I would say there are policies and frameworks that are coming up, like we talk about DPDP Act. Fine, but the thing is, yes, they have come up, but they are limited to tier 1 cities as of now. So that's
Okay.
the kind of evolvement that we have right now. But yes, government is coming up with the things. DPDP Act is one of the biggest policy that we are coming up. Then government also has taken some of the initiatives related to certain, as one of the board, wherein you have agency, wherein one you have to report all the incidents. So they'll issue advisories, and then you have to coordinate with them for the countermeasures and all. Then we also have other bodies like Cyber Swachh Kendra and Cyber Surakshit Bharat. So such kind of bodies are coming up, wherein they give us free tools to add and tips to citizens also to detect and remove the malicious programs if happening any. So that's the kind of awareness that's rising up, which is one positive thing. But yes, we need to surely improve more from government side. It's coming up. But yes, the policies have to be strong enough, wherein it has to 100% it has to be implemented in the industry. That is what I would say. So
Nice.
that is one of the thing. And the challenge what I see is we have lack of skilled professionals also. That is again one big challenge that we face. If we talk about our seats where we are sitting, so when we are looking for the resources, it's a big challenge for us. Then there is again low awareness among users, even if you keep having multiple sessions, but still the awareness levels that is less. And even if industry users are getting the awareness, how is the normal citizen getting the awareness? So that kind of campaign surely I believe need to be run, wherein government campaigns, we have digital literacy, we have awareness about cyber threats, which has started. I'll not say that it's not started. It has started using media, but the ratio of that has to be increased. So with the rising threat and the volume of spread that is happening, that ratio has to be increased at a higher level. Again, one of the
Nice.
challenge more that I see is shadow AI. Because see, a lot of AI tools are coming up, but
Yes.
the unpredicted and the unregulated AI tools are also available. So that is again one of the biggest challenge that we need to see. And if we
Correct.
talk about industry, the last one I'll just add is the budget allocation. So
Mm-hmm.
that is again one of the biggest concern that industry have. You 10% or 15% of the budget has been actually allocated for the cybersecurities project. So when you have such limited projects, how would actually this special task be taken off? Because business applications always overrides other projects. So
True.
it has to come from the board. Cybersecurity, as I always say, it has to be a project which has to be taken care by the board. So if that kind of inventions are there, our security posture would increase at a rapid level.
I think Pooja, this is going to be a direct question to Namrata, her being the director of cybersecurity. So, how do you want to answer this question where Pooja has indirectly asked you? It comes directly from the board. So, what are the initiative that you probably, Namrata, would have taken in your own organizations, probably, or would you like to appreciate some of the initiative taken by the government itself, like how Pooja Chatras was mentioning just now?
So, according to me, our cybersecurity structure, like India cybersecurity,
Mhm.
it is evolving, it is progressing, and it is very strong. There are strong regulations. I'm not saying infrastructure. Infrastructure is always evolving. There are a lot of zero-day attacks are coming in, and our regulators are really strong. I work with IRDIA, I work with RBI, I work with SEBI, and SEBI is really strong regulations. They are imposing their rules, and organization has to, like the exchanges has to follow that rules. And there are a lot of things which are implemented through regulation in India, which I have to say it is not across the other uh, maybe outside India. So certain it's strongly recommended whenever there is within 6 hours you need to report that incident,
Mhm.
any incident that you need to report that. There are identity and authentication controls that is compulsory. You need to show that how you are adhered with the privilege identity management control in your organization, and it is a regulations. So here organization has to deploy that control. Means you can say there are hardcore control, not like that. Okay, just tick mark compliance that organization can give. Hardcore control, hardcore that evidence has to deploy and showcase to the regulators.
Mm-hmm. Nice, nice. So there are so multiple perspectives. I think this definitely comes to a conclusion where it says that progress is definitely visible. I think all it requires is resilience. But yeah, resilience is a journey and not a destination. At least when we are talking about cyber security here and the initiative measures that has been taken by organizations and the government. So thank you, Pooja, and thank you, Namrata, for it. So next, I want to come back to Mitali again. So, how do you think India's data privacy laws compared with the global standards like GDPR? So, do you think we are on the right track? Are we making progress there? So, how far do you think we Indians are ready to match up with the global GDPR?
So, Priya, so the laws are very good. And like Namrata also pointed out, there are a lot of initiatives that are being taken in, and, like reporting your incidents to certain, and, the kind of regulations that they have brought in, and the kind of audits that they do, and the organizations have to they have to comply with. So, in terms of that, I think there is a lot of work that has already been done, but, there is still a lot of work that has to be done because of the because of the population, you can say, because of the number of organizations, because of the kind of progression or the kind of progress that we foresee. I think that's the reason why there is a lot of work that still needs to be done in a country like India, because if you go in other countries, they are either developed or they have lesser number of population, right? Here you have to make sure that the policies that you draft, you take all the citizens along with you, you take the organizations with you, and in an economy which is growing, you have to make sure that all the policies align with the agility of the of the environment. So they have to be agile, they have to be flexible. I think that is one of the reasons why the DPDP Act took so long just to get the draft out. I mean, even now the organizations have to comply with it, but still you would see it is continuously evolving. You look at the IT Act, it is evolving. You look at the global standards like the ISO 27001, you look at the HIPAA Act, all of these are evolving. So it's not that it can be built in a day. Rome was not built in a day, right? So similarly, you cannot have all the policies and everything drafted in a day. And considering the population, the awareness that you have to bring in, from the administrative perspective, the implementation that you have to bring in the entire country, I think that's where it would take time. But yes, we are definitely on the right track. And I would say the policies that we draft, they are equivalent to how we see in the global market, the policies. And a lot of brains in the global market are also Indian. So we should always say that our policies are the best, right? That's
Nice,
how we
nice.
should talk about it.
Now, of course, when we can balance agility and flexibility, I think that definitely the half the battle is won, like how you were mentioning. So yes, so I think clear message, like how you have said, we have made a good start. But yeah, alignment, I think with the global benchmark, you think, I think it's still loading is what I could infer from whatever you just said. So let me get back to Shweta right now. So one very important question of today's episode, which I want to ask is what is that one advice which you give it to any young woman considering a career in cybersecurity or IT risk, for coming from a person with such amazing, glorious years of experience in this field? What is that one piece of advice which you like to give it to all the young women out there who you are trying to reach out to each and every day, and you are trying to be the kind of motivation each and every single day for all those young women who want to pursue a career in either finance or cybersecurity? So what is that one piece of advice, considering all those people who want to consider their career in cybersecurity or IT risk?
So I think there is still not much clarity at the level where a person is trying to evaluate whether a career in cybersecurity would be apt for them. So at that age, when you are in your 20s, you are anyways little lost. And cybersecurity is a field which is evolving every single day. Every single day, there is a new battle that we need to run as cyber when we defend the cyber security. And so my advice to those people who are thinking of cybersecurity as a career is that, see, it's like an ocean. From the periphery, you will not be able to really appreciate what is deep inside it. And once you've sort of taken a dive into this ocean, you will get across a lot of water bodies and underwater the world that is there in the underwater. You'll start enjoying it. So what is needed is just take a plunge and just stay committed. Anywhere, don't feel that this is something that I will not be able to sort of manage. There are ways and means to win all the battles. And I think women are inherently made like that. We do find solutions to every problem.
Yes.
So I would really encourage people to opt for this as a career.
That's amazing. So that's really inspiring. I think all women would agree to this, that the firewall is it gender coded. I think all you have to do is just prove it, like how you just said. Take a plunge. Don't be afraid of all the sharks. Just be your own crusader. I think that sums up beautifully. Thank you, Shweta. Thanks for giving this wonderful response there. So I would like to come back as the question for all you amazing speakers here. So, do you believe that it's possible to balance security and user convenience, or you think it's always a trade-off? Like you were talking about our Google account being misused, or our phone being the credentials being misused. So do you think, can we strike a balance between the security and the convenience here, or else you think it's always just a trade-off here? So yes, Namrata, would you like to take it first?
Yes, so it is like a trade-off, security as well as convenience. We can basis on how responsible we are, both the organization which provide that infra and the users. For example, we can take, we are using like DG Yatra. It is very good. The
Yes.
accessible, like we can bypass a lot of no, maybe blockage and can directly enter. So
Exactly.
it is convenient. But the same way, it is the user's responsibility to secure their phone, their mobile, and it is organization, it is the infrastructure provider's responsibility to provide a secure DG Yatra app. So that is also important. It is both basis on both the organization as well as, so is there here the awareness is very important, that your mobile phone should be very secure, the system should be very secure, and then there is a lot of convenience, and security can be inbuilt along with that.
Correct. So it's like you become rich, but also become responsible. So with great power comes great responsibility also. Yes, it's not just your power to just buy things, but also you have to buy common sense for yourself also, just to make sure that you don't have to blame the government or the system later telling it was not safe enough, so that's why I lost so much of money. So how far are you investing on yourself, your security, your privacy, to make sure that you do not have to blame others for your own mishaps tomorrow? Yes, thanks Namrata for that. And yes, DigiYatra, I think we all use such kind of apps. So Mitali, do you think there are any other apps which you think are trying to surpass this and making sure that it gives kind of privacy which each one of the user has it on the convenient, very user friendly, but also top notch on the privacy part?
Yeah, I think a lot of apps these days, they are there. Like there are SaaS-based applications that are there, which we use in our organizations. Most of them are secure, or they claim to be secure at least. So, you can't say that they are secure or insecure until and unless you start using them. But I think a lot of it depends on how you have, implemented it in your organization, in your environment, and how you are using it. Like, for example, when it comes to convenience, and I mean balancing the convenience and the security, I would say it is very important that you take proactive measures rather than taking reactive measures. Like, it should
Correct.
always be based on your proactive risk assessment of your organization, of your home environment, wherever you are implementing anything. Like, for example, if I take example of office, I should not just implement a tool just because it is the in thing in the market, and just because it's everybody is implementing it, so why don't I also implement it? I mean, does it really make sense to have that in the organization, or will it just be another box sitting in my server room? So I have to take that assessment. I have to see, is it going to ease the operations for the business, for my organization, or will it be an added burden to my IT security, where my laptops will become even more slower? So those are things that you have to evaluate before implementing anything in your organization. Similarly, at your house, just because my neighbor has had a CCTV, I should not go ahead and have 4 CCTVs installed in my house, which is too small and can be covered with just one CCTV, right? And then I run about here and there thinking, oh, this is not working, that is not working. Or I think, okay, you know what, I need to have Alexa, I need to have IoT devices, I need to have connecting things, everything is there. And you have your mother staying at home, and she doesn't have any idea about how to use even a mobile phone, and you're telling her to use the IoT devices, and then you're telling her it is very convenient, you can just switch on your geyser with this, you can do this, you can do that. But come on, she's not used to that. So whatever security measures or whatever things you are putting in, does it make sense to have it? Is it really important for the business, for the users? And does it bring with the convenience? That's what you have to gauge. So that kind of a assessment, a risk assessment of the entire environment has to be done, and only then you should implement the controls. After that, there are a lot of controls, and it's up to you how robust you put your cyber framework, that those controls would be in place. Otherwise, there is nothing secure. Even WhatsApp have to give the ads saying that their data is encrypted. They are giving ads in newspapers these days saying that it is encrypted. So
Yes.
did we ever think that WhatsApp will have to do this? No, right? But that's the kind of awareness, that's the kind of assurance that they are giving. So I think it starts with us, and then how we as custodians of information security, when it comes to implementing in our organizations, what kind of measures, awareness, and what kind of calculations and decision making we do, which is risk based. So we have to bring
Correct.
that into the DNA of the organization as well as DNA of our house.
Exactly. So, gone are those
Can I
days
add
when
one thing?
we actually, yes, please, yes, please.
Yeah. So you just mentioned about applications. So wherein I think we actively are using applications like single sign-on. So
Mhm.
wherein the convenience is there, right?
Yeah.
Security plus convenience that we take care of. And again, the other application is MFA. If you see, instead of OTPs, now what is happening is we have a biometric control wherein you can have your facial recognition that can be there. Then you have the authenticator apps. So that kind of thing wherein convenience with security is coming up. So that is
Yes,
where we need to select. Like Mitali correctly
exactly.
said that we need to select it according to the organization need.
Yes, yes, not being consumed by all the other apps. Just make sure you understand how it works and then act accordingly. Yeah, like how I just wanted to say that gone day, those days when we were just telling दीवारों की भी कानें होती है. I think we have to now say devices की भी कानें होते हैं. So let's be very cautious, super cautious with whatever is happening. So thanks for that. So let me come back to Shweta. What is your perspective on it?
So I sort of resonate with other panelists that yes, there is a balance that we need to strike between user convenience and security. And these days, I guess all the solutions that are being built, all the products that are available in the market have the security inbuilt by design and also offer the user convenience. So any security tool for that matter, if we want to deploy, comes along with a beautiful looking console so that the admin is able to manage the controls themselves. And there
Mhm.
is definitely a recommendation, but basis the utility and the structure of your organization, you're free to select what level of control, stricter or lenient, you want to deploy. Because definitely you can't bargain on the user convenience. However, security is non-negotiable.
Yes, yes, correct. I think it will be a revelation. I think that will be an amazing innovation when we could uh, have the designing done with empathy and security. I think that's when I think there'll be a very good change what we could see tomorrow. So yes, there are a couple of more questions which we can probably take it very soon right now. So one question, it's a mild shift from here. How can companies shift from a compliance driven security to a trust driven culture? Because when we are talking about the work culture and this trust building and safety and other aspects, so do you have any examples of your own experience with your organization, with your experience with multiple organizations? So how do you think, how can companies shift from compliance driven security to a trust driven culture? So Shweta, do you want to take it up first?
Yeah, so I think by design, we Indians are
Mhm.
not the ones who are very sensitive towards privacy and security. So this is a gradual change that is coming in, and there is a lot of work that needs to be done in this space.
Was it?
For instance,
Yes.
I'll take an example which is not of technology. For instance, vehicle insurance. Unless we know that we'll be penalized for not having an insurance, we generally are not so careful about having a insurance in place, unless we are scared that a traffic policeman would probably stop us at one naka and then would put a challan
Yes.
on us. So it's similar here as well in technology that while we as technology leaders try and push a lot of security around the landscape that we are managing, but unless we make the other non-technology users also aware of what all cybersecurity threats or attacks might happen in the work environment as well as in their personal space, people do not take it seriously. So that culture needs to be driven by letting them know what all can happen and then what is expected from them as part of a cybersecurity awareness initiative. Then probably they'll be in a space where they trust when we deploy any security tool. Because otherwise, it becomes an IT initiative in the company that IT has put some tool and now my work is getting hampered. So that trust needs to be built in by educating, spreading awareness. Why are we doing? What are we doing? The compliances that we are trying to put in internally, we need to first spread awareness and tell them the rationale of doing that. Only after that it will be successful.
Correct. Like how you were mentioning, making it mandatory versus not so mandatory, or using it as an option. I think that's where there's a thin line that differentiates between these two. So, Namrata, I want to ask, what is your take on this?
So, in my view, compliance based audit or compliance with tick mark should not be the answer to the cybersecurity. We need to
Mm-hmm.
build a strong culture amongst the organization. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
for example, we need to build we are running a lot of campaigns for awareness, and we should encourage users who have also some punishment, not only encouragement, to successfully clearing those campaigns. Okay, so we should recognize that that recognition and appreciation should be provided to the user, so that everyone will be like to be like aware and encouraged to participate. Some campaigns are basis on we are not doing mandatory, but some campaigns are mandatory. And in mandatory, if there is any lack, any gaps, so there are certain punishments also defined. But whenever user trying to participate on their own and they show the awareness, they recognize, oh, okay, these gaps, and we are providing, we should provide, or every organization should provide the tools to report if they users found certain things suspicious. There is a open culture to report it. Give them tools to report it, and users should come forward and report it, and that is very important. That awareness
True,
is very
true.
important.
Correct. So rewarding versus reprimanding someone for doing something wrong. I think India definitely needs that. So we are almost on the end of this discussion. So one last question I would like to ask each and every speaker here before we close this discussion over here is a quick bite from each one of you on what is that one cyber truth probably India must face today. Is there any one cyber truth which you think each and every Indian must face in today's world? So, Mitali, we'll just like to start from you. Just a single line.
So I said that earlier also, that either you are compromised or you are about to be compromised. Like, either you are breached or you are about to be breached. You would either accept it or not accept it. But I think that's one truth, that, your data somewhere down the line and your organization's data is there out there. It's just that when the hackers find it, and then you can be hacked. So I think that's one cyber truth we should accept first. It's like, when you have a disease, you have to first accept it, only then you can treat it. So this is one truth which you have to accept, and then you have to bring in the measures in place, the preventive, corrective, deterrent, all those controls in place to make sure how much you can, when you are attacked or when you are compromised, how much you can stay resilient and fight back. So that's what you have to do right now.
Correct. So quickly going to Pooja here, accepting the problem and then coming up with a solution. So Pooja, what is your take on this?
So I would suggest is that I'll just take it forward from what Mitali said. So first thing is acceptance. That is 100% required. Because if we think whatever we have implemented and we are 100% secure, no, that's not possible. So when we don't, we accept the fact that we 100% we are not secure. So the thing is, we are more, I would say, we take forward it in a more better manner, that with the eye opener. Yes, there could be a problem, and we look at the problems in a better manner. That is the thing. So as a security guard, like कि यहाँ भी problem हो सकती है, तो that every step has to be taken care of. And when it comes to organization, I believe is that for any of the solutions, security must be integrated by design. It is not that you have to bolt it after as an afterthought. It should never come like that. It should be as a design, you have a security wherein any of the solution is taken care of. If we are implementing the solutions in that format, for sure we are in a better position instead of taking the reactive steps.
Correct. So that's amazing. So it's like trust isn't built in boardrooms; it's nurtured across teams. So and also daily habits. So definitely, that's a very good perspective. Thank you, Pooja. So Namrata, what would you like to say on this?
Continuous monitor, assessment, I think the important thing that many organizations do, many big organization, there's an interdepartmental assessment, because I know what is gaps in your department. So I can assess it very better way rather than find out from the auditor. Interdepartment, like, they can do, they know that, okay, this project is original by this department, I know what is the gap, and I can be very curious and I can find out and expose those gaps. So that interdepartment assessment can expose a lot of gaps when projects runs in the organizations.
Nice. Cool. So that's these are like amazing takeaways. So can you see that the myriad kind of opinions and perspectives and all these are so relevant for today's world. So Shweta, I'll come back to you on this. So your take on this as an ending note today.
So rather than one, I have two answers. One is somewhat Pooja has covered that rather than being defensive, let's be proactive in our approach towards cybersecurity. And second is that we should take out the cybersecurity KRA from IT teams and spread it across all functions. It should be everybody's responsibility, not just the IT and cyber team.
Correct. Being relevant, which should be prevailed all across the across the organization, and not just like how I mentioned, searching for a solution once the problem occurs. So let's keep our organization safe by following all these measures pretty quickly and act accordingly, act smartly, take advantage of the technology, but not be consumed by the technologies. I think we can sum it up this way with discussion today. So wonderful. And yeah, I would definitely like to say that it's definitely going to be a grand wrap for this, from digital trust to workforce transformation, and from firewalls to being fearless women. What an amazing journey it was today. 1 hour with 1,000 perspectives and so much more learning that happened today. Thanks to all you amazing panelists for and also our audience. Thank you for your great response today. And I would like to add after the discussion today that I think we all will agree that security is not a setting, it's a mindset. And I think in the future, it's encrypted with women like these who are definitely leading the way. Why am I, and I'm not being a sexist here, but I think the schooling starts from a mom at home. I think when moms are being vigilant, I think definitely we are going to go a very huge way. And what better way to celebrate this notion today with all amazing women on the house today. So yes, thank you once again. And I would love to tell all our audiences that if you have missed any part of this discussion today, please don't worry. We'll have the complete video uploaded on the YouTube, and you can make sure that you get all these points second after second. Note each one of those and make sure you're safe and secure, your money is safe and secure in your accounts. And this is the best way to do, is attending more of such episodes from SheWork, and make sure all your assets are safe and you are safe. And that's the reason I would like to tell everyone before ending this webinar today. So stay safe, stay curious, and also keep those password long and complicated, if I may say. So thanks everyone for joining in for today's webinar. And yes, it was wonderful to see all of you. Thank you, one and all.